Welcome to the Blue Ocean Solutions podcast, where we dive into real conversations with business owners, innovators, and industry leaders shaping the future of clean tech, construction, and the renewable energy sectors. I'm Kreel Hutchinson, your host. Our guest today is Dave Roberts, the Managing Director of HDM Energies in the UK. Today, we're going to be discussing his strategy for disrupting the UK energy market by offering commercial solar and battery storage with zero upfront costs, and how his company is leveraging a $100 million fund to achieve hyper growth. If you're a CEO or C-suite executive in the renewable energy sector, you will love the show because Dave reveals the operational and financial strategies required to scale. Welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great. For my audience that may not know you or your company and your work, why don't you do a little bit of an introduction of yourself, your role, and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Dave. So I've been in the renewable industry for 5 years, spent 20 years in brewing before that. And of course, a lot is really different, but a lot is the same. So it's all about customer service. It's all about managing peaks and troughs in demand and supply. Automation. So my final role in brewing was leading a transformation project. So automating, offshoring, making processes work and be efficient. So a lot of that comes into it. So fell into renewables by mistake. I'm a failed interim. So I intended to be an interim supply chain director, moving role to role. My very first role, I went permanent after my first 6 months, stayed for 3 years and just fell in love with the industry. I think it's always great to be in an industry that's trying to do good. And whether that's save the planet or save people money, I think there's a lot to love. We call it the solar coast. It's a really dynamic industry affected by government policies, but also global economic situations. So the Russia-Ukraine conflict really spiked global energy prices and then spiked demand. Yeah. So really interesting place to be reacting to all of these external factors. So yeah, after that 3 years in supply chain for a renewable distributor, I went to be a managing director of a solar battery manufacturer. So I had 2 great years there, finished up as global chief commercial officer, embarrassingly only for a couple of months, because then the opportunity came to come to HDM. So the 100 million funding that you mentioned is the start of a 1.5 billion rollout. And that was the point where the founder said, Dave, do you want to come on board? And yeah, I absolutely did.
Hey, fantastic. What was the key thing? Because it seems like you're new 5 years in the renewable energy sector, but you're moving through these nice roles. What grabbed your attention of why you wanted to lock arms with your current company and go the next distance with them in their growth pattern?
So I think people is always a massive part. So I was a supplier to HDM as a group, so knew the people really well. But I think that the journey that HDM Energies are on, so we're 3 years old as a business, but essentially we've got everything in place now from quite a small team, but really capable. The software, because the automation to enable the growth to be scalable without really clunky processes is there. But also it's a really cool idea. So Dan, our founder, had this kind of over a glass of red wine one night to fund the build of a virtual power plant, which really helps the grid and saves a lot of money for the UK economy by giving people energy saving assets. So yeah, it's a really cool economic model that just works for everybody. And actually the hardest thing we have to do is to convince people it isn't a scam, because it just feels unrealistic that it can happen.
What's so then for HDM and yourself, what's the real drive and passion behind the motivation behind your guys' work right now? Is that financial impact, combination of both?
It's really a combination of both. So I think there's a global cost of living crisis caused by energy prices, but is now affecting every area of the economy, whether that be transport or groceries, whatever it may be. And that pain is felt by consumers, but also by businesses. So we have a chance to solve that in part, a little bit of a solution there. In the meantime, we help the energy transition. I would like to think my grandkids, I don't have any yet, but that they will have a decent world to live in, and we'd like to leave it that way. But from our perspective, the returns are good as well. So we deploy the assets and help people, but we expect the grid trading capability of having thousands of battery assets. It helps the grid, it helps consumers, it helps businesses, but yeah, there's a good financial return for us as well.
Excellent. My audience will be very familiar with the solar coaster, as there's a lot of US based companies here and viewership. But the UK might be a little bit of a more of a foreign concept. And so could you get into the particulars of, what does the market look like? What does the trends look like there? And also how you guys are delivering into those set of circumstances?
So the solar market is really interesting. So the kind of energy geeks or those who really want solar probably at this point have it already. So then the market is kind of diverging a little bit. So government subsidies for maybe social housing. So people that can't afford solar will get it. And then in the commercial space, there are solar farms being rolled out. So instead of building coal power stations, we're deploying solar farms, wind farms, really good as well. But of course, the UK doesn't have lots and lots of land, which is why we believe solar on rooftops is better. But from a commercial perspective, it tends to be the Amazon warehouses, a megawatt of solar, which is yeah, 2,000 solar panels. That kind of scale is really big. And what we find is a lot of the small businesses, we believe 71% of small businesses either can't afford solar or can't justify it. They should be spending their money on growing their sales or developing new products, whatever it may be, and solar is not a priority for them. But without solar, we think the UK will find it really hard to grow the economy. With AI and data centers, electric vehicles, electric heating, we need more and more electricity. It takes years to build a nuclear power station. We don't want to use coal. So it's a really interesting space.
You mentioned 71%. So do you think those assumptions that that group is making is incorrect based on, deliverables, that actually it's not as expensive, or the return on investment? What does that look like on your side?
So my own workings tell me that if a company pays for solar, it will repay in about 6 or 7 years. However, buying solar will take 12 years to outperform our model, which to them is a day one payback, zero investment. As soon as you get 1 unit of energy from the solar panels, you've saved money. Um, and it's quite common in big procurers of energy that they get what a power purchase agreement is, but a small business owner is quite alien to them. So a big part is explaining what we do, gaining the trust that we aren't con men. That's a big thing. But yeah, I think there's this concept that net zero costs money. You have to be financially worse off to make the environment better. And solutions like ours mean no. So you can be greener, you can save carbon, but actually save money straight away as well.
For our audience, could you go a little deeper into explaining the difference between those two options?
Yeah. So traditionally, people would just buy solar. So maybe take a loan and spend, let's say, £100,000, $100,000 to get a solar system, which is theirs. They need to maintain it and operate the solar system. Something goes wrong, they need to fix it, but they get all of the financial benefit, but also normally a debt to pay off. With our model, we fund, we design, we install, we also maintain the system. So if a cable breaks, we fix it. The panels get dirty, we clean them. From an end user's perspective, well, they've got to allow us access to the roof, of course, and to put the panels on and to maintain. But all they get is a no cost and immediate benefit. Of course, they're paying us for the energy, so there is still a cost, but it's typically 30% less than they're paying their existing energy supplier today, but also fixed for the duration. So that saving will grow as we expect energy prices will continue to increase 5% year on year.
I mean, it sounds like such a good deal. I can see why the pushback is people don't believe it. And so, how do you overcome those challenges and hurdles?
Building up case studies essentially, but also associating ourselves with trusted names. So we're really lucky to have a relationship with Paragon Bank, not one of the biggest banks in the UK, but yeah, a respected name. They've got billions of assets. A lot of it is buy-to-let housing, actually. But they're diversifying their portfolio, and yeah, they really are a trusted name. There are others that I can't announce just yet, but yeah, the bigger and more trusted names we can associate ourselves with, the better that is. But equally, letting people know that we have a customer portfolio that are happy. And I think scale builds scale. So once you see your competitors or somebody around the corner doing it, then maybe you do it as well.
When we spoke off air, I was thinking, we're talking about different trends. So I'd love you to talk about which trends are really working in your favor to help deliver the viable product to the marketplace, and then which trends are actually like challenges that need to be overcome along the way.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the trends that are really helping our business case is one, energy prices are going up. Every year our offer looks more compelling because our price is the same and there's just a bigger gap. So the bigger the saving, the more likely people are to jump on board. Dynamic energy pricing as well. So certainly a lot of Europe now has different prices, either in different hourly buckets, some even in different 5-minute buckets, which enables us to buy energy on behalf of our customer at the cheapest, greenest possible time and avoid the need to buy energy. So we're storing it in a battery when it's cheap and green, and we're avoiding buying the dirty, expensive energy later on. So the more we get these kind of dynamic energy prices, the better it is. But also, it's more front of mind to customers that I'm really paying 65 pence for my energy right now. That's crazy. 20 years ago, it used to be 6 pence. I want to avoid doing that.
So continue on those trends. So that's energy prices, which I think would also be affected by, the regional crisis happening with Russia and Ukraine. And what other factors are playing for you and then against you?
Yeah. So also in energy prices, so the UK hasn't invested enough in the last probably 30 years in energy generating assets or the grid to transmit energy around. And that's why, particularly at peak times of consumption, the prices go really high. So we're now needing to invest more in wind farms, in solar, in nuclear, but there's a cost to that. And normally the bill payers are bearing that cost. So even if gas prices come down because of the conflict, hopefully ending soon, the price of upgrading the network will still be passed on to consumers or businesses. And again, we can help to avoid that by generating as much energy on site where these levies don't apply. Then kind of the forces working against us, which is really weird for us as a business. The fact that the government may or may not fund deployments of solar actually slows people down. Because if you're a school and maybe you'll get it for free next year, do you want to go and do something right now? But as an industry, it's really great that the government are backing solar. So our quite lofty target, so we want to deploy 1.5 billion pounds worth of solar in the next few years, will be about 6% of the government's target to deploy solar. So the will is there, the appetite is there, but sometimes just the uncertainty of what policy will land makes people just sit on their hands and not do anything just yet.
Indeed. So as you look towards the future and thinking about other trends, obviously, when I got introduced to you, I was thinking the UK really for solar because we typically see a lot of gray clouds and cold weather. So how has technology trends like AI, energy storage, even grid management really kind of come together in a really perfect storm for you guys to be able to attack the market with such a great value proposition right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I think about the most basic technology, which is probably unfair, the solar panels themselves. So maybe 15, 20 years ago, a solar panel peak hourly generation would be 200 and something watts, so 230 watts of energy. We're currently deploying solar panels that make 620 watts of energy. So the ability to produce more with, yes, sometimes limited sunshine. But that technology keeps developing, keeps pushing on, getting better and better. In terms of AI, so firstly, we use it in a small way now, will be more to design the solar system. So, for example, a south-facing roof in Scotland may generate less solar energy than a north-facing roof in Cornwall, slightly sunnier part of the UK. And understanding all of these kind of dynamics of how it's generated, but also how it will be consumed on site. So most customers now have access to their half hourly energy consumption for the last 12 months. So when we put that into our model, we can work out exactly what's the best size of system in terms of which solar panels placed where, also how much battery storage we can have on site. So firstly, to maximize the self-consumption of solar, but then to time shift the energy they buy from the grid. Yeah, software is helping us do that. AI is becoming a bigger and bigger part of that, but also then the operation of the assets when they're live. So we'll have 25,000, you know, relatively small solar and battery arrays. We need to control them without a team of 25,000 people doing it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love what's happening in the last couple of years with AI in the fact that it just makes all of these data-driven systems much more effective and able to scale, especially when we're talking about like solutions inside renewable, right? We're really providing a whole energy grid the chance to do it in a greener, cleaner way. So it sounds like you guys are, right on the forefront of that in the UK, which is fantastic. Earlier on, you had mentioned some lofty goals of where you want to head to. So what's really working well right now in your business and on your projects?
So I think the thing that's working best is our sister business, we think is the UK's fastest growing solar distributor. They have around 450, 500 installation partners as customers. So that's our most successful sales channel. So we explain to the installer how our proposition can help them grow their business. They're out there selling it to local landlords, local businesses, and that's proving really successful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we also, because we're a startup, we want to keep the overhead lean. So we have quite a large third party sales presence, and they're doing a great job, of course, commission based, but they're out there representing us as if they're one of the team, which is, yeah, really great for us.
Fantastic. And then on the flip side of that, what are then the challenges or time consuming or even frustrating things that you have to deal with in your business that's kind of like in the way of hitting those lofty goals?
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't say frustration, just the reality of being at a startup. So my previous two roles were in relatively young companies. I compare that to Budweiser, which of course really old and mature. Is so we need to be a little bit selective about how we market what we do. If we had a 10 million marketing budget, right, it's a lot easier to explain to people what's going on. So that's one challenge of every startup, I think. But also, we're defining our own processes, sometimes touching new ground that no company has ever done. So designing processes as we go. But the beauty of being a startup is we can make a decision by 11 o'clock and implement by 11:30. When we speak to some of our bigger partners, it might be 2 months just to get a decision maker in a room to make a decision. It's kind of the risk reward of being a startup.
Yeah, I think but you highlight one of the advantages being nimble in the marketplace, especially also with the solar coaster, because things do change, administrations change, laws change. All of a sudden, you have to weather different storms that weren't so clear in advance. So I think you're in a really great place for that. As you look into the UK market, like, how big is the potential here for you guys over the coming years?
So that's a really big question. So one of the hardest things that we find is we have to say no to a lot of things. So we actually started with the intention of deploying solar on social housing. We now pivoted to commercial SMEs. We quite often get asked about doing solar farms, carports, EV charging infrastructure. We had some opportunities today in the Republic of Ireland. So just a lot of things that would be really, really great to do. Actually, we want to do the small commercial rooftops really, really well, and then maybe expand to other areas instead of getting confused trying to do too many things and maybe make a mess of them all.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, really knowing which lane you're in and maximizing the efforts there. As we then talk about who is your ideal customer profile?
So, number one is reasonable level of credit worthiness. We're backed by a bank who have retail investors, and we need to be sensible with their money. Number two, they need to be able to fit 50 solar panels on their roof, so it can't be too small of a footprint. And they need to have reasonable energy consumption. But yeah, that probably applies to the vast majority of UK businesses. Outside of that, we don't have any real preference in terms of we're doing installs on some small football clubs, so semi-professional football clubs, then to schools, then to really big warehouses, and yeah, it's interesting where we're finding the customer excitement. So schools is actually the biggest area that, of course, they don't have lots of money to spend. They don't want the hassle of managing a solar system. Showing the kids that they're doing the right thing for the environment and saving money is, yeah, it's really really good area for us.
Yeah, great. And so all of those that you just mentioned are all within your ICP. And how do you start those conversations? How do you find your customers to roll this out to?
Yeah. So right now, it's either largely via our installation partners and a lot of cold calling by those guys. But then the best ones, the ones that we operate with, there's a lot of word of mouth. So somebody's really happy with their install. They go to some business forum, explain what's gone on, and that kind of snowballs. We also have this third party sales agency, again, cold calling, going to business forums. And we're just on the pivot point of saying solar's been really good to us as a route to market. But energy brokerage, we think, is the avenue because the proposition is: would you like cheaper, fixed price, and green energy? Most people will say yes, and then we get into right. The way we do that is by deploying solar and battery on your site. We guarantee you a price for 2 years, but then we'll always be circa 30% cheaper than the second best price on the market. We think this will get us from kind of people who want solar choosing a PPA over just buying it to hopefully accessing a much bigger marketplace.
Yeah, well, I think the value proposition really makes sense when you walk it through. It's basically a cost saving, and it's a better long term solution. So it makes a lot of sense. At this point where you guys are at, it sounds like you've got funding, you've got a clear, ICP, you've got great case studies that are unfolding. Is it time to kind of up the marketing and advertising and the outreach for 2026? Is that really on the agenda?
100%. Yeah. And it's a little bit chicken and egg right now because we need to drive the sales line to drive the revenue to market and recruit more salespeople. But yeah, I'm just on the lookout for 4 more salespeople as we speak. So I've got 4 active adverts out there. We're expecting a decent equity raise early next year as well. So the people who invested in us last time round will invest again, which gives us a pot of money that we can start to sensibly deploy. But yeah, now we have the software, the proof of concept, the partners in place. It is sales and marketing. We just need to get our name out there. Stop being shy.
Well, that's the most exciting place to actually be in. If you were to turn that on, can your company, for example, double and triple with its current manufacturing all in place and the systems, and that could work in 2026? Or would that create a whole new bottleneck or challenges for the company?
So the software can absolutely scale. The funding model can scale. Our partners can all scale. It might be I need to recruit 1 or 2 more operational people. I think we could maybe double or treble with the staff that we have. But of course, we need to look after their well-being. Don't stress them out too much.
Of course.
But yeah, it's all entirely manageable. The only challenge is turning this big funnel of potential customers into a much bigger funnel, and yeah, more coming through the other side.
Well, it sounds like you're actively engaged in finding those solutions. So it seems like that's just a matter of time before something clicks into place.
And to be fair, Creel, it's already happening. So
Yeah, it
we
sounds
know
like.
by the end of this year we'll have 3 times the installed capacity out there than we have now. So what we've done in 3 years to this point, we will treble in the next 6 weeks. And yeah, that pipeline is growing. It's not massive, but it's, I think, a sign of that curve really starting to kick off for us. So the efforts we've been making for the past 6 months with the installers, with our sales partners, it is bearing fruit. It's not a 2-minute decision process to go for solar.
Do you have a case study you'd like to share with the audience of one of your clients that you took them from their challenge and showed them a new direction, and they're super excited with the results?
Yeah, so probably the best one is Bridlington Sports Centre. So it's a leisure centre. It's a charitable organisation, so it's a place for young people to go to. They've got really high energy consumption, a good size roof space as well. Of course, every penny that they can save goes back into supporting community sports and being available for particularly young people in the area. So we installed something like 200 solar panels on their roof around May time, and yeah, they're really enjoying the benefits of that. System's working actually better than expected. So this summer the UK was more sunny than normal, which in our world is brilliant because that's generating more energy, more savings for them, which is really really cool. And yeah, they're on a promotional video we're going to send out with another customer saying how happy they are, which is really great. I think what I said earlier, happy customers breed, I think, a pipeline of future happy customers, which is really great. And we think they're going to come on to the holistic energy tariff with us as well. So when their renewal comes up, we'll be able to save them even more money by increasing the battery size and changing the time that they buy their energy.
And that's fantastic. How did you come about finding them?
So it's interesting. Our founder is on their board of trustees. So a lot of the early adopters of what we did were because of the trust, because of connections of people they know. And now we're kind of breaking through that a little bit to lots of people that we don't yet know. But certainly, that was the route to market for the first few installs we had.
Yeah, makes sense. Quick question, and this is probably from my just a lack of area of expertise. Is it possible that there's enough energy created, stored in the batteries that it's beyond the consumption that the customer needs, that they could actually sell or resell that to like a neighbor? Is that even a concept?
Yes, it is. You wouldn't tend to do it with a battery, but you would with solar generation. Now, typically, the amount that you receive is lower because there are costs of transmitting it to the other place. But we're just about to sign a contract with a partner who that's their specialist business model. So when we get to the place that we have thousands of solar assets, essentially we could have a very large warehouse with a big roof next to a small manufacturing site with really high energy consumption, and use the big roof to subsidize the big consumption and really utilize the space out there.
As you look forward, so what are the strategic priorities that you have for, let's say, the next 6 to 12 months, running you through 2026 for your ambitions with the company?
Yeah. So I mean, the number one is increasing the deployment, and which I just mentioned. We're already kind of on track, but we need to keep doing that. That will be a core priority probably forever. I mean, most businesses are sales focused, so that will be a big one. We have a couple of really big partnerships that we want to sign this year. So one with a massive incumbent energy supplier. So again, adds a lot of gravity to what we do when we associate with big names. And the final one is a big part of what we will be doing is energy trading. So supporting the grid, whether it's on frequency or just energy availability at the peak times. So we're going into a trial next year with 1 megawatt hours of batteries, really proof concept. Yeah, and that's going to be great for our investors to see, but also, our customers benefit indirectly, that anything that we can do to generate revenue on the back end gives customer savings at the front end, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic. As I speak with you, David, I get the sense of momentum. There's energy moving forward in a good way. And so as you look at then your operations or even your client process, what do you wish was more streamlined to be able to bring on a lot more people? Is there any challenges or things that you'd love to automate a little bit more so that it could be a smoother rollout?
So I think one thing that I find in the employment market is a lot of people come from big organizations where they're used to having one job. It's very formulaic. They know exactly what the process is. Whereas we need entrepreneurs. So I'm actually speaking to the local university about getting interns, but also what's called a KTP, a knowledge transfer program. So it takes about a year to kickstart, but then you have somebody from the university, normally somebody kind of master's level, for 2 years integrated into our business, but they have an outreach into the entire university. So you're getting the type of person who's at the start of their career. They won't be an employee for long. They will be running a business. They'll be an entrepreneur. They can come and really help us be disruptive. That we don't know what the processes of the future will be. Of course, we have some processes set. We have some people operating those processes, and that's really great. Yeah, we need more support to drive the process of the future and keep us being innovative.
As we move towards the finish line here, if there was a magic wand, and with this magic wand, you could wave it and you could either automate one or two aspects of your workflow or some challenges that are in the company or even in the larger trend, what would that be and why?
Hmm. Yeah, interesting one. So I think if I could wave a magic wand, so one thing that I experienced being in a startup is you're less interesting to speak to for people who don't know you. So when I was at Budweiser, of course, everybody knew Budweiser. It's not hard to set up a meeting. So there's a lot of partnerships we want to make, but people don't know who we are. Maybe it takes a lot of time to get in touch and to get them interested. So I guess and it comes back to marketing, people knowing who we are. So being a name that inspires others to want to come and collaborate. And we have some great partnerships. Yeah, they're I guess they take a lot of upfront effort from our side to get going. So if you could just kind of click a finger, wave a magic wand, and people all want to do business with us straight away, that'd be perfect.
That would be perfect. That is the opportunity that every entrepreneur and startup business faces, right? Once you become that, you've been successful, and it's all been, for all that energy and effort has gone in the right direction. So I wish that for you and everything that you guys got going on at HDM Energies. I've really enjoyed this conversation, learning a lot more about the solar coaster on your side of the world compared to over here. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words or any closing statements? And also include where people can reach out and find you if they want to have a conversation or find out about all your services.
Yep, sure. So I would say find me on LinkedIn, but I have the most common name in the world, so you probably won't find me. But yeah, drop me an email, dave.roberts@hdmenergies.co.uk. I'll respond really quickly. But yeah, interested to hear from people, their thoughts, their views, potential partnerships, potential customers. Yeah, look forward to
Fantastic.
hearing from people.
And is there a website they can go check things out?
Yes, it is hdmenergies.co.uk, but we know we need a little website refresh. So this will come probably post the investment early next year.
Okay, perfect. And I will drop those links into the show notes, everybody, so you can check down below. And to my audience, if you've enjoyed the conversation, make sure to like and subscribe, maybe share it with somebody, a colleague, a friend, maybe a potential a partner or a customer that would need to be interested in adopting solar into their life in the UK. This would be a great podcast to share with them. Dave, once again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. And to our audience, that wraps up another episode of Blue Ocean Solutions Podcast. Take care, everyone.